said, but don't repeat. Just go ahead from where you were. And give us your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Jeanette Pavlis. For the past 10 plus years, I've worked with the population of individuals that are duly diagnosed with a substance use disorder and a mental illness. These individuals consisted of homeless, sex offenders, individuals convicted of many types of crimes. I do believe in recovery, and recovery does work when it is sought when it is sought after and implemented properly. I have run halfway houses, community residence, and supported living houses. I have firsthand knowledge of the needs of their struggles as well as the roadblocks they face to have their needs met. An individual's needs can range from one to many of the following. They may need intensive outpatient treatment for substance use, which consists of treatment 5 days a week and up to 5 hours a day. Minor to major mental health treatment, physical health care that has been neglected while in active addiction and or being homeless. Employment and educational deficiencies, lack of social supports, family and other relationship issues, past and current or new legal issues, and daily living skills to help them reintegrate back into society. Receiving an individual from a jail or a prison does not mean the individual received treatment. They may have been abstinent, but abstinent does not equal recovery. Should they have received treatment, they have not had the opportunity to demonstrate any skills that they have learned outside of a controlled environment. Abstinence does not mean recovery. Recovery is more than having a roof over their heads or having someone visit the site once a week to help the resident with job searches. In an area that has no jobs, should the individual get a job without going to treatment, it would be like giving someone a loaded gun to play with and not expecting someone to get hurt. An individual with substance use issues who hasn't established recovery with sober social supports and has not had an opportunity to apply whatever coping skills they may have learned to everyday normal life outside of a controlled environment, they will not make it. To give somebody a paycheck in their hand is going to be disastrous. An individual who has started mental health treatment and placed on medications will risk losing their Medicaid should they get a full-time job. If the individual gets a full-time job, there's a chance the individual will lose their Medicaid, and if so, they may not continue with their medications. Some mental health medications are extremely costly. If their new insurance has a copay and they cannot afford the copay, the medications will stop and they will degress. The individual will start to self-medicate and return to substance use before they have had a chance to build a sober support network and become stable. By returning to substance use, there is a high probability the individual will return to crime or start a new criminal activity. Returning to a crime or starting a new activity in a village that does not always have police readily available. Recovery is a process and about processing the reasons for their substance use as well as the consequences of their use. This can range from past trauma, undiagnosed mental health, or dealing with shame and guilt from behaviors while in active addiction, as well as many other reasons. Individuals need to be able to process these feelings and events in a safe and secure and supportive setting. The processing of these feelings and events is ongoing and does not stop when the individual leaves their sessions or their group sessions with their counselor. To return to Richfield Springs, where there are only 2 AA support groups a week, one on Friday evening and one on Sunday evening, is not enough. It will not be conducive to their successful recovery. An individual who has been abstinent from heroin or opiates for 30 days or more and then relapses or uses again with the same amount they were using before they stopped will overdose. In a village where lives have already been lost due to the drug, where the drug is still rampant, placing individuals here without proper support is dangerous and careless. Remember, Richfield has 1 ambulance that is supported by volunteers. What will happen if one of the residents at this hotel should overdose while the ambulance is out on another call? Even if they are not out on another call, remember, it's supported by volunteers. who must come from their homes from inside and outside the village. They must wait for an approved driver, and then the ambulance has to get from the firehouse to the location of the call. When someone overdoses, Narcan needs to be administered immediately for any type of chance of survival. Will the staff that Mr. Bennett talks about having on site 24/7 be trained to administer Narcan? Will there be Narcan kits? Because yes, sometimes one dose is not enough and several doses need to be administered. Will the staff know what needs to be done when with the resident should they refuse to go to the hospital, because they will have that right to refuse and sign off. Just because Narcan worked does not mean the resident is cleared and safe.
I have a question. You work with the DSS, is that what?
No, I do not.
You do not, okay. If you have more information, would you like to submit that in writing up here? Then we'll have it for the record? Or?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Well, are you almost?
I'm almost done.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Will the employee be making rounds to all the rooms 24/7? Will they know what to check for the safety of these residents? Just seeing them laying in bed is not enough. What training and credentials would Mr. Bennett's staff have? Another part of recovery is proper nutrition. Mr. Bennett stated breakfast will be served. What will the residents do for the other meals of the day? Will the kitchen be approved by the Department of Health? Will the staff member who is making the breakfast have completed the food and safety handling courses? What about the resident who has special dietary needs? Will the staff be trained to provide appropriate food for these individuals, and who will be providing finances for the food that's being prepared? Mr. Bennett also reported that transportation will be provided. Will there be a staff member on site when this other staff member is providing transportation? Will the driver's license of these staff people who are driving be run through DMV, and will that be reported to the insurance company for liability reasons? Having individuals who need community sports and positive community activities to help them reintegrate back into being a productive member of the community should not be housed in a community that does not have community sports or positive community activities, or at least community activities that do not involve the children of the community. This is not conducive for a successful recovery. Idle hands and an idle body with a mind that has not had a chance to recover and become stable in a community without proper supports is a recipe for disaster. Successful reintegration depends on a combination of good individual choices, good formal and informal social supports, and good policies. Having a residence of this nature in a community that does not have formal or informal social supports would be disastrous. By allowing this type of residence in our community, we would be setting these individuals up for failure. It would be devastating that their failure may be at the expense of one of our community members. Thank you.
Is it possible for us to get that, or you want to make a copy of it or give it to us? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that has not spoken before, or has spoken before which wants to add to what they've already given us? Mr. Bolevsky? Okay. Addition to what he's already given. Hold the microphone kind of close too, would you please?
Like this?
Yes. All right. Yes.
I want to respond first.
Put your name on the record, please.
Oh, Nicholas Bolevsky, town of Richfield. I want to respond, Mr. Chairman, members of the ZBA, to a couple of points made in the February 7th letter from Mr. Bennett's attorney to you. And one of the points, and we've heard this before, has to do with the Dreams Parks. And I just wanted to say that I have 30 years experience in the tourism industry in Otsego County. And the suggestion that Dreams Parkers are going to drive 30 miles to stay in a facility where most of the rooms do not have private baths is not credible. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Now, the next point that I want to address in the letter from the attorney has to do with the suggestion that, well, even if it's not a hotel, it's still a permitted use because There's so many other similar uses like nursing homes and other things that are permitted. And I would just like to suggest that this use is distinguishable from all the permitted uses simply because of the threat. We've heard here from professionals about the dangers and inconveniences of places like this, and you also have on the record from the last hearing the minutes of the Otsego County Human Services Committee in which the mayor of Oneonta is complaining about behavioral problems that he can't address, and DSS tells him, well, call the police. And the last thing I'd like to address, again, from this letter, is the suggestion that to find that this is not a permitted use would be arbitrary and capricious. The first person who spoke when you opened this hearing 2 weeks ago cited for you your own zoning application, the purpose of which is, and I don't have it right in front of me, but the purpose of which is to protect the security, the safety, the comfort, and the morals of the community. I don't see how it could possibly be arbitrary and capricious or in any way improper for you to find that something was too dangerous for the community to house when the purpose of the whole zoning code was to protect the community from just such dangers. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? To add to prior? Okay. Go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Douglas H. Zamlis, attorney for the appellant, Ms. Barbara Wall-Shipsky. And she's seeking an interpretation from you that would annul the zoning permits issued for the supposed hotel at 55 Lake Street. Now, Ms. Wall-Shipsky has asserted several grounds for her appeals, and we've now provided a total of 4 written submissions for the record elaborating on those grounds. The last one was a letter today in response to the applicant's lawyer. So my remarks are brief. I'm not going to cover what we covered before or what we've covered in writing. I do want to point out, though, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that Section 7-712-B1 of the village law provides that your review of these appeals is de novo, meaning all over again from the beginning, as if you were standing in the shoes of the zoning enforcement officer. And that state statute gives you all the powers of the zoning enforcement officer, and you're to make the determination that, in your opinion, ought to have been made by the zoning enforcement officer. So your review isn't specifically limited to whether it's a hotel or not. It also encompasses the entire application and its compliance or non-compliance, as is the case here, with the village zoning regulations. Now, we understand that Officer Roberts currently occupies the zoning enforcement office, but that he is not the zoning enforcement officer that made the determinations appealed from. So we certainly mean no respect to Officer Roberts, and any comments directed towards his office certainly aren't directed to Officer Roberts personally. Now, in Ms. Wall-Shipsky's third submission made yesterday, we included the report and plan prepared by transportation engineer Gordon T. Stansberry of Chittenango, New York. Mr. Stansberry is an experienced and respected transportation engineer. And Mr. Stansberry concludes, like I did, that your zoning code requires at least 29 parking spaces for a business use, and he laid out the 29 spaces on the parcel in the configuration that the applicant showed in his parking plan. And sure enough, Mr. Stansberry signed and stamped this plan, and sure enough, a parking lot that would comply with the zoning regulations would extend almost to the parcel's eastern boundary and would require substantial tree removal, excavation into the steep slope, retaining walls and stabilization, and drainage facilities, none of which are shown on the applicant's plans. Now, we maintain that what the applicant has proposed is not a hotel, but if you find that the application does not meet the requirements, the parking requirements in your zoning law, that failure to comply with the parking requirements is sufficient basis on its own to annul the zoning permits and grant the appeal. So on behalf of the appellant, we again ask that you interpret the word hotel as it appears in your zoning law to mean only those lodging facilities open to the general public with features and amenities typical to a hotel. And we also ask that you interpret section 275-17B of your zoning regulations to require that a business operation with at least one employee and 5,586 square feet of floor area requires at least 29 parking spaces, and that those parking spaces actually have to fit on the parcel given its physical constraints. So since the facility isn't a hotel, the supposed hotel parking plan isn't stamped or to scale, the parking is insufficient under your zoning law, and the proposed parking can't actually fit on your site, on behalf of Ms. Walshipsky, we ask that you make written findings within the next 62 days to annul the zoning permits issued for 55 Lake Street. Thank you again.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that has not spoken before or wishes to add their prior speak? Is there anyone that has written documentation they would like to have entered? No one wishes to speak, and no one has any written records. Is that correct? This hearing is now closed. Our decision will be rendered within the next 62 days. Thank you for coming.
We make a motion to close it. It's 10 minutes. Okay.